Tom Friels, Professor of Automotive Technology at Sinclair Community College in Dayton, Ohio. And we have a series of videos here to help explain and help instructors with teaching electric vehicle technology. And that has been provided thanks to an NSF grant that we were awarded recently. And if you'd like to know more, take a look at our website at selfdrivesinclair.org. We're going to talk about high voltage gloves and some of the safety gear that you need to work on electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. So one of the first things to take a look at with high voltage gloves is basically their rating and the date that they were actually certified. So I want to talk about a couple things with that. First thing, why you need gloves. So you basically need high voltage gloves because you're working on a high voltage vehicle and you're probably working on it because there's a problem. So you can't assume that things are turned off even though you've maybe turned them off, right? Whether it was a service disconnect or something like that. So the gloves are there as the extra layer of protection in case something was live that you didn't intend for to be live. So the gloves are basically rated at 1,000 volts. They're tested at 5,000 volts, way above the level that you're actually working at on most of our hybrid electric vehicles. The layers of these gloves are actually, there's usually an over glove involved in this, and that's basically just to protect the rubber, right? So these are a natural rubber glove. They have a certain thickness, which is where the rating comes from. The leather over glove is just that. It's a protective glove so this doesn't get nicked up with meter leads, sharp edges, tools, hopefully not around any grease and oil and things like that because it's detrimental to rubber. And there is no rating to the leather over gloves, it's just the rubber gloves. So the expiration and the certification of gloves is kind of a confusing attribute here. The first rule to think of is as soon as you put the gloves into use, they're basically, the clock starts at 6 months. The confusion comes in is that these have a shelf life of a year. The problem usually comes in when how long have they been on the shelf before you've purchased them. So if you purchase some gloves from a supplier, they could have been on the shelf for several months. You need to look at the date. For instance, this has a date on it of August of 2022. All right, these are probably due to be sent out. They've been something that's been on the shelf. Another example would be a brand new pair, still in the box. These were actually certified in September of last year, so 2022. So this is a typical scenario. There's a 12-month shelf life, but there's a 6-month useful life before they need to be recertified. So these need to be recertified September of 2023, since we're already currently in May. You're not going to get the full 6 months. Those are things you want to keep in mind if you're purchasing gloves. Sometimes you don't have a choice because you're just ordering them online, but if it's something local, you could probably talk someone into looking and seeing what the data is actually posted on the box. Should be posted on the box so you don't have to open them. It should be on the bag that's actually not broken a seal yet. When I do open them up, the clock just started today, even though the 6 months for these is gonna basically not make it to September. And then I should have a date on the gloves themselves. There's the September 22. So the reason for the recertification is just like tires, and being that they're a rubber product, they're gonna dry out basically over a long period of time. It's not that they're gonna do it in a year, but they need to be certified every year to make sure there's nothing wrong with them. Plus you are handling tools, meter leads, sharp objects, sometimes with battery cases and things like that. So there's a bench test, there's an air test, but the certification basically is a whole process where they actually send them off to a testing lab. They're basically submerged in water with a electrode in the middle, and they try to pass 5,000 volts through them and certify them to 1,000. Okay. So as far as a bench test is concerned, this is something you want to do before and after you've actually used the gloves. The reason for doing it after is in case something happened while you're using them, you know about that now, so they can be replaced if something like a cut or a puncture happened while you're using it. So the typical bench test, done a couple different ways. You'll see it described kind of like you're blowing a balloon up, or just trapping some air by folding it over and just squeezing, looking at the fingers, listen for air escaping, that sort of thing. Obviously where your fingers are is where you're probably handling things, so that's the most important. But you want to do a very good visual, maybe a little stretch here and there to see if the cuff was actually damaged or anything like that. That's about the best you can do with a bench test. A step up from that, which is not required but is actually kind of handy, this is an air test. It's literally just a air inflator. I've stretched the cuff over the cup of that. I've aired it up. There's no gauge or anything. You're basically just inflating that to the point where it holds air. It's not necessarily a time test. You're just doing the same thing. You're looking for leaks, and you could tell right away if this thing wouldn't hold air. That's kind of the idea. I like this because I'm testing the parts that I had to fold up that I wouldn't have been able to actually test with the bench test style. So that's another way to look at it. So let's talk about storing your gloves safely so that they don't get damaged just while they're waiting for the next time you're going to use them. All right, a good idea for storing your gloves is to have some type of protection for it. This is something that's usually available when you purchase gloves or possibly separately. Doesn't have to be this exact piece, but I also like to make sure that I don't leave my overgloves on the rubber gloves, because that just gives you the tendency to not check them, and that way you always can see the date right off the bat. And then basically this type of bag is intended so your gloves, it's kind of vented so it doesn't necessarily, you don't want to put them in a Ziploc bag basically. So from there, I don't have anything that can beat them up inside a drawer. Like I wouldn't suggest put them in your hammer drawer or screwdriver drawer or anything like that. I've got a drawer here that just basically has a case from a meter and a lock box for some keys and stuff for some other safety items, and that way I'm not going to beat it up and I know they're in there, and that way they don't get damaged just in storage. Thanks for watching our video. If you'd like to find out some more, check out our website at selfdrivesinclair.org, and also check out below for more resources regarding parts, equipment, and teaching methods.